You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, and James Jones. And for the first time ever, we are releasing the opposition view as a separate podcast a little bit later in the week, separate from the main one, which you heard earlier on this week. I'm delighted to say that joining us for the first time ever on the We Are West Ham podcast is big Luton fan, Steve Blackwell. Steve's great to have you on the show for the first time ever. I've known you for a very long time, and we often have quite a light-hearted chat about football. You are partial to a spare ticket at West Ham every now and then. You just live around the corner in Mile End, but your heart lies at Kenilworth Road. This is the first time, I believe, since we've known each other that our footballing paths have crossed. And how excited are you? How are you finding the whole situation? I remember talking to you, I think it was last season, and you were saying you were scared about the prospect of Luton going up.
Yeah, I mean, as you've seen in the first two games that Luton have played, we're going to have a long, hard season in terms of results. It's going to be very difficult for us. And I suppose I was scared isn't the right word. I was anxious about the idea of being involved in the sort of, not just the football, but the Premier League discourse. That idea of you've got chat going on the world over. You've got people who aren't going to be appreciative of the fact that Luton are a tiny club and that we're punching above our weight, and that we're just going to be getting torn to pieces in YouTube comments every week, which is exactly what's happening. And I don't expect 25-year-old lads in Chelsea fans in Nigeria to know about points deductions from 15 years ago in the 4th division. But to constantly read people
if
saying,
only they did.
Only they did, to constantly read people saying new records points, new low points total and all that is quite disheartening. But my skin will thicken up and we'll get better, I think, as we go. But, yeah.
Steve, do you think that actually you've had the fixtures at the start of the season have been pretty difficult? You've already had to play Brighton. You've already had to play Chelsea. Do you think that as the season goes on, like you just said, you'll see Luton will get used to it a little bit, and they'll pick up some probably results that people wouldn't expect them to get, and you'll be a lot more respectable, a little bit more closer than people are currently giving you credit for.
I do think that. Yeah, I think like you say, we played two very good teams. I mean, I'm talking to the wrong people because you've rolled both of those teams over, but I do think that we play quite aggressive football on the back foot, and quite often hitting it long up to two big lads up top who'll hold it up. We're going to have to play that way this season, so we're not going to have to adapt our game. Quite often you'll see a team that were like the dominant footballing force in the lower division come up, and then they can't do that against better versions of that, and they struggle. And I do think we will get some scalps. I think, like you say, we played against a very good footballing Brighton team and a team that's worth 50 times our team in Chelsea that I think will come good as well. I think all the chat about Chelsea being dreadful is going to go away quite quickly, because I think they'll start to galvanise and play quite well. And I do think we'll get results. When the fixtures come out and you go through it, I did sort of, you do a points tallying. It wasn't massive, I've got to be honest. It is quite daunting, but I can see.
How many then? Go on, give us a number.
We didn't hit 40 points, put it that way. We weren't staying up in my estimation. But I think, against teams that play in a more similar fashion to we do, I think we will give them a game, and I think we will surprise some people, definitely.
I always sort of find it can be a little bit patronising, right? To when clubs come up, especially who weren't expected to. You had the third smallest budget in the Championship last season. Like you say, I think it is lost on lots of people, even in this country, perhaps, what a monumental achievement it was, and a punching above your weight it was to even get to the Premier League in the first place. And I think Rob Edwards has been careful in his interviews as well to sort of veer away from the old, you'll have a nice, almost like an exhibition season. You get to see a few big players at your ground, and won't that be nice? Is there? I find it sort of patronising to suggest that, But to be fair, though, for some fans, there is an element of that. Like, there is an element of they get to see the big players, and then for a season, you'll always remember you'll get a few hide-ins, but then you sort of sink back to not sink, but settle back at your level. Settle back at your level.
Yeah.
What? How do you view it? Because it doesn't sound like you're full of excitement and positivity about being in the Prem this year.
No, but I would frame it slightly differently to that. I don't. It isn't for me about seeing players that I've heard of. That's not what's exciting. What's exciting for me is the longer term thing. And I think if Gary Sweet has said that we're probably 2-3 years ahead of where he thought we would be.
He's the CEO. Is he your CEO?
Yeah. And I think if you look how we haven't spent loads of money. We're obviously developing a new ground. We bought players that are unlikely to have release clauses if they go down and all that sort of stuff. So what excites me is the idea that we're looking to break into that next bracket of clubs, like Norwich or traditionally West Brom, and start yo-yoing. And then the team you've got to look at, I suppose, is the team that's really broken out of that now is Brighton. They had a couple of years, didn't they, of being in and around the top of the Championship. And I think that's what excites me. I'm under no illusions that we're more than likely to go down this season, but it's about the long-term changes that's going to make to the club, I think, is what excites me. Not about seeing Haaland 1 year and then sinking back to our level, or whatever you just said.
Not a lot of Premier League teams are going to know about Brighton style. Brighton. I've got Brighton in my head because obviously we just beat them the first time in about 100 years.
Yeah.
So, Luton. Strange. Not many people are going to know. Not many teams are going to know Luton's style of play. Not going to know much about it. Not going to have to deal with it. Where are the strengths in Luton's style?
It's aggression, really, and I think you see some of the comments on the Chelsea game that early on in the first half that tipped over into just there's quite a few yellow cards flying around, and I think it went a little bit far, is what people were saying. But it's that sort of combative style, and then like I say, it's not, I wouldn't say long ball, but we're not pressing teams. We're not sort of on the front foot of teams. We sort of sit back, try and win the ball, and then score on the break. Basically, that's Luton style, I would say. We've got Carlton Morris and Adebayo up front. Adebayo, I think, is one of the best holders up of the ball I've ever seen. I think he's brilliant, and that's sort of the way that we play. Yeah. We sort of get it up to them too, and then hope that something happens. But there's not really a, we're not sort of playing it through the middle.
You're not known for a specific style that everyone goes, that's Luton. That's the way Luton play.
No, I wouldn't say so. I'd say that.
Well, Rob Edwards said, didn't he, at the beginning of the season? He said, like it might be ugly sometimes. That was his point. He was saying that we're not just here for a ride, for a bit of fun. Like, we want to stay in the division, and to do that, we're not going to exactly what you said. And I always used to find that with, you play Pep Guardiola, right? His team would have just absolutely dicked Bournemouth 6-0. And then he'd be heaping praise on Eddie Howe, who it was then, saying, he really tries to play good football and it's absolutely amazing, really respect him. And then next week, when they're held to like a 1-1 draw at a West Ham or a Wolves maybe, or whoever it might be, right? I don't know, just someone who plays sort of a less quote marks, like attractive style of football, then it'd be Klopp's an absolute, he's brilliant at it. It's just anti-football, really. Yeah, you just dropped a point. That's why you've just dropped points against that team. And Rob Edwards said that, didn't he? He was like, don't expect beautiful football. It may be ugly at times because we're in this to play to our strengths and try and win a few games, not go down as these valiant losers, these protectors of beautiful football against financial behemoths. It's ridiculous sometimes.
Well, and like I say, so the good thing is that we're not adapting our game to do that. That's sort of how we've already been playing. Did you watch the playoff semis at all? I don't know. Did you watch the second leg against Sunderland?
No.
Just tactically brilliant. I mean, it was horrible. It was. We probably on average sort of half a foot taller than their team, and we just completely bullied them. And like you say, even after that, there was people in the comments saying, "Oh, well, it was a horrible display," and it's like, yeah, but we're going to the playoff final and Sunderland aren't, so. Like I say, we absolutely play to our strengths. But yeah, we're not. I'm not going to say we're not going to try and play football because that's a bit harsh. There's a few lads in there that can play, but I think it's beneficial that we're going to carry on playing the same way that we played last season because like I say, we're going to get outplayed if we try and play beautiful football all the time. So, yeah.
What have you made of the first two games? And obviously, you've conceded 7 goals against 2 of the better teams. They're going to finish top half. Chelsea will probably be in the top 4 this season. What have you made of those first 2 games? Were there signs of promise, or was it a bit of a wake up call, crash down to earth? What was it?
I mean, I'd say the first half against Brighton was a wake up call. You know, as you'd expect it to be. But I think they had a post 2 or 3 times as well. And you know, some of our defending did look a little bit rabbit in the headlights at times. But I think you've got to, you know, look at the positives. I think we created a couple more chances against Chelsea in the second half. I think, you know, like you say, they are going to be there or thereabouts. And I think we were in the game until 70 minutes. I'd say we were in the Brighton game until about 80 minutes. I think, you know, we had a couple of decent chances in both those games. Again, hitting teams on the break a little bit. So I think there are positives. I think we've also got, you know, we played 5 new players in that Brighton game. So there's still a little bit of galvanising to do for the team, get to know each other and stuff like that. And I think actually the new lads, Ryan Giles looked really good, and Tahith Chong's looked really good. And I think, you know, there definitely are positives there. I'd say if I'm worried about anything, it's defensively we've looked really quite open and quite easy to exploit in some ways. But yeah.
Looking at to Friday, Steve. Obviously, finally you get your first game, Premier League game at Kenilworth Road. I'm sure it's going to be bouncing there on Friday night under the lights. I'm actually dreading it because we played Nottingham Forest in their first game back in the Premier League at City Ground. Yeah, and it was absolutely bouncing in, and we lost that last season. So I'm low key dreading it.
That was so we were robbed though, weren't we?
Massively robbed. Yeah, we should have won that round 4-1, but missed the penalty. Hit the bar twice. A goal disallowed for offside. Goal disallowed for a foul. It was a bit of a nightmare, really.
Handball.
How did you see this one going on Friday?
Get sent off. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think it'll be a similar thing. I think you're right. It's going to be, the atmosphere is going to be incredible there. You know, people are going to be so pumped up for it. I think you've been dealt a bit of a raw hand with a Burnley game being cancelled, and obviously that means that this is our first game, and I think that's only raised the intensity. I think, you know, I'm a West Ham affiliate, as you know, as Will says. I go to games quite regularly and things like that. But I think the style of play will suit us a little bit more. I think we'll be able to give you guys a bit more of a game with the home advantage. I think we'll do all right. I think it'll be a draw on Friday. That's what I think. I think we'll pick up our first points, to be honest. But
we were one of the 24 points you anticipated getting this season, were you? West Ham at home.
Afraid so, mate. Yeah. Well, I was doing it with the. Well, that was until you were, you know, top of the league. When I agreed to come on here, I wasn't thinking about this season's West Ham. That was with the lads from work who are West Ham season ticket holders. I was going through it with them, and they felt the same way. Similar probably to you guys because of what happened with Forest last season. But I think it is going to be as good a time as any for us to pick up our first points, and I think it's going to be a tough atmosphere to go to, I would say, for you boys. But how do you think?
So, Steve, well, that's I'm semi-confident, but I think that's just because of our first 3 games of the season, really. Not Bournemouth so much, but the last 2 performances have been brilliant, like showing a lot of heart. Kudus has come. We seem to be getting stronger. I think the new players are bedding in more and more. Jared Bowen's brimming with confidence, which he wasn't at the beginning of last season and grew into the campaign. So I think, just on that strength alone, and just the fact you've conceded 7 goals, I don't... what have you scored? Twice?
Penalty.
Once. Yeah. Well, so, I mean, just those stats alone and playing with a bit of confidence. I hope we're going to do all right. But just quickly then, Steve. So for anyone who either hasn't watched your first two games, wouldn't know a lot about Luton, star players, that sort of thing. Who's touched on the style of play, but you've mentioned a couple of your big names there. But who are the players to watch out for? Who are typically your best players? Because most of your side for a few years has just been West Ham's youth team from 2016, isn't it?
A lot of those guys in there. Yeah. So I think having watched the game back on, I was away on Friday, but I watched it last night after I got in. I think Tahith Chong, he was the lad who was at Man United and then he was at Birmingham. He looked really good. He's got a little bit of creativity, which is something we haven't had for a couple of years really in there. I mentioned Ryan Giles already. I think if you look at most of Middlesbrough's goals last year come from his deliveries. He was massive in that team that got in the playoffs. And then Carlton Morris is the other one he's a bit of a unit up there, and he can cause anyone problems just with his strength and stuff like that. So yeah, they're the players I'm excited about at the minute, really. But yeah, the ones to look out for you boys.
Exciting stuff. Well, look, so Steve, it's a Friday night game under the lights, first Premier League game for Luton at Kenilworth Road this season after your return. West Ham in fighting fit form indeed. You've said that you fancy a draw from it. Give us an exact score prediction.
I think it'll be 1-1.
1-1. Jonesy, have you got any thoughts? How do you see the game going?
It's going to be difficult for us. I think the atmosphere is going to be very, very difficult to play in for us. But I think we'll win. I think it's going to be very tight, 2-1. I think the fact that we've gone to Brighton and won quite convincingly, and not many teams can go to Brighton and win this year. The fact we've done that, there's going to be a lot of positivity. What you just said, Will, a lot of positivity in that squad. And I've just added Kudos as well. I think we'll play a part. So yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. Be very tight.
Yeah. I mean, you'll have heard sort of my Betway charity bets earlier this week, Jonesy. I just fancy, Steve, like you say, the aggression Luton have shown the first two games. That atmosphere is going to ramp everything up. I fancy a red card is what I've gone for. A red card to be awarded. West Ham haven't had one this season, but a few yellows in that Luton team. If it's a raucous atmosphere, fancy a late challenge or something like that. You think that's beyond the realms of possibility?
No, I think that's entirely possible. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, Jonesy, what did you give us a score prediction then, James?
2-1.
2-1 to West Ham. Yeah, I am a lot more confident, as reflected in my Betway charity bet earlier this week. I'm backing Mikhail, Antonio and Jared Bowen to score, and a red card to be awarded was my bet. But I fancy a similar sort of a 2-goal margin of victory for West Ham, just purely based on I think you'll struggle to put the ball in the net, and we've got some forward players playing with a bit of confidence. Whereas as you mentioned, Steve, I think your defensive issues might see you struggle. I fancy another 3-1. To West Ham. But look, Steve, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on the show for the first time ever. I appreciate you're not quite as I hope you sort of consider we did a good job not patronising you by suggesting you're just going to enjoy this season by watching big names like Alphonse Areola and Vladimir Soufal play at Kenilworth Road. But look, absolutely brilliant having you join us on the show.